Hey folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier, Mike's Instant Movie Review. Air, the movie Air, courting the legend. The movie about the start of Air Jordan sneakers, kind of a revolutionary product or clothing material, clothing item, a shoe. I'm sure many of us have worn Air Jordans or some competitor's brand, of course, and there's been other players since Michael who've had their own shoe line, but definitely the Air Jordan, if it wasn't the first, it was certainly the most successful and probably still is the most successful by all accounts. So, should you see this movie? I think so. I think most people can find something to enjoy in this film. The performances, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, here we go, are of course two of the pivotal parts. Viola Davis, also a Rhode Islander, by the way. Viola Davis and I went to the same college, not at the same time. She, I believe, was just the recipient of wasn't it an Academy Award or Grammy for the best audiobook? I guess the best audiobook, her memoir. So congratulations to her. And so on. Jason Bateman. I mean, there was a time when Jason Bateman was the less regarded sibling of Justine Bateman, who of course played Mal on Family Ties, but Jason Bateman here holding his own with some real heavyweights. Chris Tucker, nice to see him back as Mr. White. So what's this story about, folks? Well, we go back in time to 1984. Really strong montage to start the movie. Really a good montage, I thought, of the key things. I mean, it's easy to do some of these montages, but they dug a little deep. Nice to see Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik get a second of shot out in this movie in the opening montage. But things, Reagan, of course. I don't know if they showed McDonald's ads or whatever the fuck, but they just showed, Mary Lou Retton and so forth. All this Americana shit that was going on back in the 80s, back when people were proud to be from this country and not ashamed or whatever the fuck, didn't have country identification issues. Back when people wanted to be an American, which people still do, by the way. People die swimming to get to this country, and we take all our fucking things for granted. But in any event, so we go back to 1984, and Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon and others, I think the name is Bowie, other players that have kind of come and gone without notice, but John Stockton was in this class. They're all coming into the NBA draft, and I believe Jordan went third, which is interesting. And Nike is in a war that they're losing, for the best players to sponsor their shoes. Now listen how I phrase that. Because back in this era, the players were basically spokesmen for a pre-existing shoe. And they didn't have players who had their own shoe. And so this guy, now there's people coming, so I have to be quiet for a moment. God, just hold on. Okay, so basically back in this era, the players just represented the shoe that already existed. The Converse or the Adidas or the Nike. The players didn't have their own monogram shoes, their own shoe titles, their own shoe line. Okay, so that being said, this guy Sonny, who here's the thing, I saw years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, a doc, I believe a 30 for 30 on ESPN. If you're a sports fan, you should be watching those. And I believe it was about this whole topic, right? So, why are people always around me? So, if you watch that doc, it's the same story as this. It's the same highlights and bullet points, and we all know the outcome. But if you saw that doc, should you go see this? You already know the story. Well, I think you should, because it's a very good, well-made film, and sometimes a layer of acting and a layer of perhaps, manipulating the actual facts of the story. I mean, what the fuck, kids? I'm trying to do my review here. But to actually go see this movie, I think is a good idea, even if you have or you haven't seen the doc that I'm talking about. So basically, Michael was a big Adidas fan. You know, he was coming out of college. He, of course, won the college championship. Was it, I believe it was NC or NC State, one or the other. But basically, he was there. I think it was NC State. Sorry, don't hashtag me if I got it wrong. But basically, Michael was, looked at as a great player, but a guard. He wasn't Hakeem. He wasn't Moses Malone. He wasn't Dr. J. He was smaller than those guys. And but Nike was in a bind because they could only spend so much money on their shoe line to get 3 athletes. They typically got 3 guys. And they weren't even looking for the top players because they didn't think they could compete with Adidas. Adidas, of course, was high on the hog because Run DMC had done a song, I believe, titled My Adidas, and so forth. And Converse was right up there, and they had Larry Bird and Dr. J and Magic all in a commercial together. So Nike was really a struggling number 3 in this Nike, the early shoe wars. And so this guy, Sonny, who also takes credit for putting together the first high school, basketball fucking all-star games or whatever the fuck. Sonny basically makes a play like, hey, we got to get Jordan. He's going to be the man. He's going to be the best, blah, blah, blah. He's watching the tape of Jordan getting that last-second shot to win the college championship for his team over and over again, and he's kind of worked himself into a shoot where he thinks that we got to get Jordan and it's worth risking my whole career and everybody else's career, and so on and so forth. And so then that's Matt Damon's character. The marketing guy is played by the aforementioned Jason Bateman. And hey, why don't you get your sister a role in a movie for a change, pal? Ben Affleck plays like the fucking owner of the company, the owner of Nike, the founder. But of course, there's still a board, the unseen board. And then there's also a really interesting character who comes in a bit later, the guy who actually designs these shoes, like the designer. Interesting little character there. Jordan's 8. We don't really, in case you're wondering, well, who plays Michael Jordan? We basically see the back of his head and maybe 5 or 6 words in 2 or 3 scenes. We see the lovely Viola Davis as Jordan's mom. A pretty good actor, also played Jordan's dad, although he didn't have as meaty of scenes. Viola carried, that parental thing. She had all the big monologues and all the big moments. But it's okay. And the agent, Chris, oh man, I feel bad because I was trying to remember his name. The guy that played Jordan's agent was really good. Got some good laughs from the audience. Kind of an antagonist, but not entirely. Interesting thing. I went to see this movie in the middle of the afternoon. I think this is the first day it was readily available. It's a Wednesday. I didn't see any sneak preview things. Going to see the movie on a Wednesday, but I think this is the first day it's available. I go in there. Everybody's nice and calm. Maybe 5 or 6 people in the theater. And about 20 minutes into the movie, the movie's already up and going, and this, I think 4 people come in late. I think they came in together, but they sat in different areas, like 2 rows apart, and these folks were vocal. They were just very chatty and talking to the screen and clapping along with the fucking music. Like, there's music in this movie that's really good music. It's all 80s stuff, but they're all clapping along with the goddamn music, and it's like, okay. But I look at these things differently now since I'm in the business. As you know, I'm a Screen Actors after a SAG-AFTRA actor myself, a union actor, and of course I've written screenplays and contributed to documentaries about Lennox Lewis, and I've made my own Disregard the Vampire, Mike Messier documentary. 13 awards, 10 awards for my new short Disregard. There's a black cat in the parking lot. So I know this business. So for me, as a mark, as a consumer, like most of you folks, I might be offended if there's people talking to the screen or they're getting animated or vocal. But as someone who's trying to keep the movie industry alive in my own way by going to all these movies and doing Mike's Instant Movie Review, by the way, the last 3 or 4 years, you can see that I've reviewed almost every big movie that's been in the theaters. Some of them are on this channel, One Mike Messier YouTube channel. Some are on One Pro Wrestling Fan. But you can just see all my wonderful reviews, okay? Just put in the little fucking YouTube search, Mike Messier, and the name of the movie you want to see, you know, reaction to, whatever the fuck, okay? But I try to, you know, I try to be more understanding now, and I try to be more forgiving and have more patience for the humans, because if they're enjoying the film, if they're reacting to it, that means my industry is still alive, that there's still a place for everyone to go, like Nicole Kidman says, go to the movie theater and watch the movie together. So that's why I go. And this type of movie, I think it's a movie that's not childlike. It's not an idiot movie, but you could bring pretty much anyone to this thing and they get something out of it. I think for people that kind of lived through this, you know, the shoes, or for people that are basketball fans or even pop culture fans, you know, you'd probably get more out of it. But the movie does a pretty damn good job of kind of explaining the era and everything that was going on, the circumstance, the time, the place. So even a younger person who has a brain in their head and not just in their fucking phone might be able to get something out of this movie, okay? So I give it a big thumbs up, uppity, 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 up. Nice to see Ben Affleck and Matt Damon back together. Of course, we all know their work in Good Will Hunting. They also work together in School Ties and some other stuff. But this one is nice to see them have all these big scenes together. You know, it's nice. And at the end of the movie, they play like the old Michael Jordan, Be Like Mike commercials and so forth. So it's well worth seeing. I say go see it and subscribe to One Mike Messier YouTube channel.